Hey everyone, it's been a little quiet on the channel lately, and part of that is due to another unexpected trip Joe and I both went on. A couple of weeks ago, Ubisoft reached out and offered to fly us to yet another corner of the world, this time to play some Star Wars Outlaws, and of course, we both said yes. Lucky for me, this time the travel tables were flipped. I had a quick jaunt down the west coast, and Joe got to deal with the joys of long intercontinental flights. Before we knew it, we were both arriving in sunny Los Angeles and seeing all things Star Wars.
Wow.
Or should I?
Oh no, you should do intros. I'm basically still jet lagged.
So yeah, Ubisoft got in touch again and said, hey, we're doing a thing with Star Wars in Disneyland. Do you want to come? And we said, yeah, why not? That sounds fun.
We said yes, we will do that.
Yeah.
Because no one else ever invites us to stuff.
No one invites us to anything. So we will go. We'll go to anything pretty much at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's fun and we never get to see each other. And now we've seen each other twice in less than a year, which is kind of miraculous.
Yeah. I think I was saying to you, it actually felt weirdly normalized already.
Yeah.
We've met 3 times in our entire lives, but this time I was like, oh yeah, we're back.
It was a good event.
It was good. Yeah, it was actually very impressive.
So we got 4 hours total of playtime.
Which is a lot.
So yeah, you played a little over 90 minutes, and then I played the other 2.5 hours, which was split. There was a lunch break near the between the last like hour 3 and hour 4. So we have a fair amount of time on.
Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah, with playing that game, we had 2 sections. There was like seemed like the early part of the game.
I'd say so, yeah.
That was where we had about 3 hours to just do story stuff and then go out into the open world and just do whatever. And then we had another hour later on that was definitely much further along in the game on another smaller planet, just to sort of, I think, show, I guess, a different environment. Yeah, and progression, yeah. So I guess we'll sort of touch on that as we go through it. But high-level thought, go.
I feel like Ubisoft are trying to move forward a step with the format of their games. I know Massive is a little bit of a sub-parent company, whatever you want to call it, but it kind of feels like a little bit of an answer to Sony's recent push towards like shiny AAA first-party stuff. And looking at Star Wars Outlaws, it kind of felt like Ubisoft is kind of starting to go in that direction, because I feel like from a bit of a like cynical perspective, a lot of their stuff has started to feel a little formulaic. We did the Avatar chat not too long ago, and I think I said the word Far Cry 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And I will say Outlaws feels instantly fresher than what Avatar was doing, at least from the context of a Ubisoft game. Every single component of Outlaws you can kind of pinpoint to a different game, franchise, mechanic from something else that you played. But I don't know, a lot of AAA stuff nowadays is just people pulling different ideas from different places, and when you rearrange a bunch of ideas that you know into a different configuration, it can result in something that does feel fresh, even if you can be like, this is from this, this is from this, this is from this. And I feel like a lot of Ubisoft products have kind of failed to feel like they're not just another Ubisoft game, and Outlaws didn't feel like a traditional Ubisoft game to me. It felt more in line with what Sony's doing in a way which is good. I do think when the reviews drop for this game, there are going to be positives and negatives across the board, which we're going to get to. I don't think this is a slam dunk 10 out of 10 game of the year. I think there are some issues which will not be able to be fixed in time, regardless of all the feedback the demoist gave to the team. But I do think that this game is going to land well and sell really well. And I overall enjoyed the majority of the components in this game that I got to try.
Yeah, I would pretty much agree, and I think this was something we were curious about just in general with Outlaws, and I actually had like a sort of like revelatory moment near the end of our day at Disneyland. We also did a day at Disneyland, and saw all of the Star Wars stuff, which I will say wasn't looking forward to it. It was really, really impressive. that Rise of the Resistance ride is like, I'm still kind of shook by that, by just like the sheer expensiveness of it was quite staggering.
Yeah.
But near the end of that day at Disneyland, I was standing there and just like, you know, in the sea of people with like Star Wars set all around me, and it really drove home to me just like Star Wars is for so many people, you know, and that is really interesting. Not a lot of stuff has that wide array of an audience, and this is something we really talked about with the what was that, Jedi Survivor games, Jedi Fallen Order, what those two games, whereas like these are interesting ideas, but like the fact that they're making like Dark Souls Star Wars just doesn't make sense to me. And Outlaws to me felt like the embodiment of that sort of Disneyland feeling of just like Star Wars is for as many people as possible, and it's like a casual IP, and I don't mean that as a negative, that's just like a fact, right? And I feel like Outlaws is, from what we played, it seems like it's doing a good job of just like going in a different direction from the Jedi Survivor games, and just like making an appeal, like a mass market appealing, comfy video game. And on Saturday, after getting back from that whirlwind week, you know, waking up, finally having a quiet morning, I was thinking like, I could boot up Outlaws like right now and play for 45 minutes, because it was.
I thought the exact same thing when I was jet lagged. Yeah,
because it's just like very shiny, smooth, easy to play, and pretty much everything felt solid. And you know, that type of just like easygoing AAA experience has its place, and I think it makes more sense for Star Wars than just about any other sort of like game or movie tie-in or whatever you want to call that. So
yeah. I think I will just push forward into the action side of things, because like I played 90 minutes before you, and it was very much just doing a couple of like main and side quests, and I did a lot of like shooting and some of the stealth, which, as you can probably guess, is the two approaches to combat. And you probably touched on more of the open world stuff, and I didn't touch the space flight portion of the game. But yeah, in my portion of my playtime, I was playing quite a like linear mission, and it felt like the mission was a bit more stealth focused.
Yeah.
Feels like the game, I don't want to say it's like pushing you towards stealth first. I don't think she's supposed to be shooting down 50 guys. I think it's kind of supposed to be like a dip in and out stealth and combat type thing.
Yeah.
And I definitely started that way. There is the classic like long grass, and you can do stealth takedowns. And if you do alert enemies, at least in the section of the game I was in, you could like re-enter stealth. And I think the flow of the game is supposed to be kind of like, you know, a bit of aggression, a bit of stealth backwards and forwards. But I, just for like a large chunk of my playtime, just started shooting everyone in the face because I want to see how it feels to shoot people. Like, it's massive. It's the Division creative director. The Division is a game about shooting people. So it was important to me how it felt to shoot people in the face. And yeah, it actually feels pretty good. I was actually really surprised by how fresh the gun combat in general felt. The first thing you do in the entire demo is the game basically introduced the concept of, I don't know what it's called in this game, but it's Deadeye from Red Dead Redemption.
Right, yeah.
I can't remember if it had a Star Wars name, my bad, Ubisoft, if you're listening. But it's Deadshot from Red Dead Redemption 2. You scan enemies, you mark them, and then you quick execute them. And I mean, you know, the second I did it, I was like, oh, it's Deadeye. But it turns out it's fun to do Deadeye. It's just satisfying, and I think it's kind of weird that no other game has kind of taken that mechanic and put it in their game, because it's just like a nice way to like stop in the middle of like a hectic situation, take a breather, and then just like insta-headshot 3 people while doing nothing. It just feels good. It feels like nice to do. And there was like the quick reload, whatever you want to call it, from Gears of War, which also is like a satisfying mechanic. And then the biggest kind of like twist is your little sub-character, your little friend, partner, the little dog thing called Nyx.
Yeah.
Which can be sent out in the battlefield with like one click of a button to like pick up weapons for you, detonate canisters, annoy enemies, like, you know, jump on them and blind them. It kind of felt a little bit like when you would use the hacking tools in Watch Dogs like mid-combat flow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting comparison. Yeah, I never thought about that. You're right, though.
But I do think nowadays, after some of the highlights of single-player shooters like Doom, modern shooting just needs like a lot of different systems that you can pull into combat on the fly. It needs to feel like there's multiple things in your inventory except for just shooting people in the face. And I don't want to be rude, but I was really surprised about how successfully Outlaws achieved that. It felt quite dynamic and interesting, and I felt like I was picking up on using Nyx pretty quickly. And yeah, I've only played 90 minutes of the game, so I can't go too deep into how that's going to feel in 20 hours. But yeah, so far, the gun combat feels surprisingly fresh and interesting. Yeah, it's good.
I should also just say we were on mouse and keyboard. They sort of said, like, we would prefer if you were on controller, which makes sense because that's where most people play it. But we were like, nah, mouse and keyboard for life.
No.
And yeah, I agree. Like, mouse and keyboard instantly makes everything easier, but it's kind of just satisfying to like.
Yeah.
But they also I think struck a decent balance with incoming damage. You can only take a few hits. So you have to, still try and use cover.
It didn't feel super unbalanced on mouse and keyboard.
No, yeah. It felt like, it had struck a nice little mid-ground there. Like, you can knock guys pretty quickly and get rid of them, but you can also only take, 3 shots, at least in the early, with smaller health pool.
You didn't have a lot of healing flasks either.
No,
you had to, find them amongst the battlefield and be, dropped, which I liked as well.
And I think the Nyx, integration was... when I was watching you play, I thought, you always have to hold down the button to bring up, the sort of slow-mo contextual stuff. But once I realized that, whatever the little blue icon is over, you can just tap the button and it, smartly knows what to do. So it seems...
Contextual.
Yeah, it seems pretty smart about the contextual stuff, and that I'll be curious, to, get really used to using that character to help.
Now let's talk about stealth. So, I don't think the stealth is bad in the game, but it just feels very paint by numbers and what you would expect from pretty much every game in the market right now.
Yeah.
It feels pretty similar to Uncharted. You got the long grass, stealth takedowns, and honestly, if there was more than that, I didn't really notice it. I could see you could use Nyx to do a distraction, which was very cute. He would roll on his back. But yeah, it wasn't the best part of the game, and I don't know, it's a little bit of a potential problem for me because, like I was saying, the game doesn't seem like it wants you to be run and gun too heavily. It kind of looked like the open world outpost stuff is more aggressive. But the mission stuff I played seemed like it really wanted you to kind of ebb and flow between stealth and shooting. And I just found shooting guys so much more fresh feeling and fun than the stealth. The stealth just felt, I don't know, it just felt very by the books.
Yeah, we've been here a lot in the last 5 years with video game stealth.
I don't know, we're going to have to see how much the game allows me to freely shoot everyone in the face because that's how I want to play that game. But we did run into a few forced stealth sections.
Yeah, which is not great. And it's one of those things where it's if this happens once or twice in the game, it's kind of okay, whatever, I'll just slog through it
If it's contextual for a mission where it really makes sense that if you were caught, you would be screwed.
And this one, it did make sense. Your ship was being impounded by the Empire, and you're sneaking around an Empire. There are hundreds of stormtroopers everywhere, or whatever. All the bad guys are everywhere. So it contextually makes some sense. But if it's the Mary Jane segments in Spider-Man 2, where it's there's 3 of these, I did not like them, but they did not detract from the whole experience.
But why not just let me be shot by 100 stormtroopers?
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully there's not a lot of those, and yeah, it would just be more fun to just be I'm just gonna shoot everyone in here. I mean, I could do it. It's laser guns. You don't run out of ammo.
Yeah.
Seemingly. So you could just do it, but as soon as it was basically just you failed, you got caught.
It just has a pop-up on the screen, you got caught.
It's definitely, that was definitely the big one for me of just I hope there's not a lot of this.
I feel the Mary Jane thing is a good comparison. If it's just specific to certain story sections because, I don't know, you wouldn't be able to get out of that situation, then yeah, maybe that would be okay. We have to wait for the full game. But that pretty much covers my early thoughts on the combat. The gun stuff feels really good and fresh and fun. And the stealth felt a little bit average and uninspired.
Yeah, and I saw a little bit more out in the open world, which is, I mean, the shooting's the same, but you have a little more just like open fields, try to find cover, that sort of thing. And you can also like pick up enemy weapons that they drop or that are lying around. But then as soon as you like climb anything or get on your bike, you just drop them, which I did find a little weird.
Yeah, that's a little weird for sure.
I just sort of thought like you would throw it over your back, and then as soon as it's out of ammo, you'd get rid of it.
I mean, that makes more sense, because if they're like a infrequent drop, I don't know. Again, it's very similar to the Uncharted system.
Right, yeah. And there was like, so you only have your pistol, which is interesting. That's like the gun you always use.
I think that's it. Yeah, I actually quite like that.
Yeah, and when we jumped forward to like the later segment of the game, the pistol had like a bunch of different, it had like 3 different modes.
Yeah, it's like a modular thing which gets better as the game progresses.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of like upgrades you can find for it and different attacks. And we had one that was like it was sort of like a charge up, and then it fires one big strong shot that was like insta killing everyone, which was fun. I like that. I'm not against the idea of just like it's one gun and it slowly changes and you can pick how you want to use it.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. Like I think the bones are pretty solid, but it's a question of like how much does the customization keep things fresh. The other big combat, well, there's 2 other combat things, vehicle related. There's on the speeder, seemingly you can only use the Deadeye mode on that.
That was really confusing, yeah.
That was weird, and it was a little clunky to just be like, you have to like turn your whole camera and then find that one enemy that's shooting you and then enter Deadeye and kill them and then exit Deadeye. And it's just like, why can't I just whip my pistol out and just shoot the guy?
Yeah, even if it's difficult, just like, at least let me try.
So that was a little strange. And then there was the space combat, which I would just say it felt like pretty standard space combat. It seemed pretty simple, which is probably smart, because if you go too complicated, then you're in like playing Star Citizen, and I don't want to play Star Citizen. So
yeah, you shoot like the little red box that's like trading a bit in front or behind the ship.
That's like all the combat.
I like Nyx as a character, cute dog thing.
Nyx is good.
Nyx is good.
Yes. And you can pet, not only can you pet Nyx, you can pet all sorts of different creatures, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I saw that.
They actually specifically said, like, I think the creative director was like, I love weird creatures in games. And you can sort of see that. I was like, yeah, me too. I was the one that spent the time with in the open world, which I was very curious about. Again, didn't have a ton of time to explore it, but I was mainly going into it being like, are there outposts? Are there towers? And it didn't seem like it.
Is it not outpost? I thought I saw you take on some bases.
Yeah, there was definitely like an enemy outpost, but I don't think I cleared it out. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's like a Far Cry outpost or it's just like a bunch of enemies hanging out. But there are definitely like little encounters to be had, and then the one sort of main side activity I did out in the open world was like a exploration thing where you go through the environment, navigate through the environment, and then at the end you found there was like a blaster upgrade that was like in a bird's nest or something. So again, hard to say for sure on the open world side of it, because the second area was just a city, a town. I will say there's a fair amount of like just stuff to do in those towns. They're quite big, and we found horse race gambling.
Yeah.
Like just little things like that just they're like, okay, that's cute. They're not important, but they just add a little flavor. It's hard to know how many like open world areas there are and what the like engagement of those open world areas is like over a long period of time, over the full length of the game. The one in the demo was like a fairly open and fairly quiet open world, which personally I'm okay with. Like the Final Fantasy Rebirth open world, where it's just like there's like a thing every 6 feet. I just kind of find exhausting. So I'm just looking through my notes if there are like other things.
The game had very good lockpicking and hacking.
Oh yes, the mini games are actually good.
They're actually good. Like lockpicking is a rhythm-based thing, which I found really satisfying. And then the hacking game is like an alien code version of Wordle.
It's Wordle.
That's a really smart thing to steal.
Yes.
I mean, maybe steal's not very PR. To be inspired by.
Yes. It's one of those things where you're like, minigames have to be fun when they're like hacking ones, because you're going to do them a lot, and these ones were good.
Yeah.
I'm normally kind of not on board with them, but yeah, the little rhythm one was funny. I had to like close my eyes to do the rhythm properly. And then the Wordle one, yeah, it like functionally works pretty much exactly like Wordle, and Wordle is fun.
Yeah.
So Space Alien Wordle is also pretty fun.
And the game looks good.
Yeah, I was pretty pleasantly surprised at how sharp it looked, I would say.
There's some good, like, interior town design going on, a lot of detail.
There's a lot of just nice looking, like, pots and pans and vegetables lying around in, like, the kitchens and stuff. Yeah, lots of good, just, like, set deck, as you'd call it in the film business. Yeah, it looked pretty darn solid. We were on a beefy PC on, like, a 4K monitor or something. I'm not sure what the specs were for any of it or what the settings were, but it looked nice.
Yeah, that's all I got.
That's all I got, too.
I think for me, you know, these videos, when like we talk about Avatar and, you know, now Star Wars Outlaws, it's very hard to give like an overall feel for a 30-hour game when I played 90 minutes.
Preview stuff is weird.
It is. But for me, it's just going to depend on the freedom to approach combat how I want.
Yeah.
If 90% of the game, maybe 95% of the game, if I can mostly just like shoot and explode canisters through most of the combat encounters, I will probably play this entire game. However, if I'm forced to do stealth like every 10 minutes, every 30 minutes, I don't know, man. That would be a little bit of a buzzkill for me. So I think that's like the biggest question mark so far.
Yeah, I would say that's my big question mark too. That would be the thing that would definitely stop me from playing it most often, would be like, oh, another forced stealth section, So yeah, hopefully those are few and far between.
Yeah.
And I think if they are, I will have a pretty decent time with it.
Yeah, me too.
Star Wars!
Pew, 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 pew! Ba, 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 da, 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 da.
I gotta get copyright!
I don't even think that was like part of the music.